Well, it's not one or the other. That expression, Supreme Personality of Godhead, has been applied to many and variously. But we would have to say that if we take it to mean Swayam Bhagavan, the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we'll take it to indicate Krishna. But which Krishna? Dwaraka Krishna, Mathura Krishna, Vrindavan Krishna, and then within Vrindavan, Krishna and Govardhan. Saraswati Thakur says, Vrindavana hoita shrestha Govardhana Shaila, Gandharvika Giridhari, Jata Krida Koila. That superior pastimes take place in Govardhan than in Vrindavan. Then Srila Guru Maharaj will point out on the Brajamandal Parikrama that Srila Saraswati Thakur, when they were in Radha Kunda, which we hear is variously the holiest of holy places, the Kunda or pond that is, in Guru Maharaj's words, the liquid representation of Srimati Radharani in liquid form, that there Saraswati Thakur even further gave analysis, pastimes on the banks of Radha Kund and pastimes in the waters of Radha Kunda. So one of Guru Maharaj's phrases is, or his maxims, is that there's gradation in everywhere and everything. So we say there's gradation in Supreme Personality of Godhead, just to make the point. Right? We first heard Srila Prabhupada talk about the pastimes of Krishna being perfect, more perfect, most perfect. Again, Dwaraka, Mathura, Vrindavan, that kind of line of thinking. Srila Guru Maharaj will say that Krishna at the side of Radharani, at the right hand of Radharani, that is Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. And at the side of another gopi, we may be dealing with Swayam Prakash or some other expansion or other type of divine manifestation. So a few things to consider. Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. Generally rendered as truth, auspiciousness, beauty. When Srila Guru Maharaj heard the Vedic aphorism and sloka when he was a child, it won't be good to be consulting while I'm speaking. Well, I want to say something. If you continue to do this, it will distract me. And I'm trying to proceed in a particular line of thought. So these kind of things, you should have met about them before, not during. You can meet, there's 48 hours. I speak for 1 hour within 48. So that gives you 47 hours to consult. So during the 1 hour where I'm speaking, it won't be good to be consulting and troubleshooting and experimenting and such. It will distract me and make me lose my train of thought. So when he heard the aphorism, Satyam Bruhat, Priyam Bruhyat, Asatyam, something Apriyam, that one should always speak the truth. Right? One should speak, and he said, all right, that, yes. And one should speak the truth in a pleasing way. Yes. And I said, but one shouldn't speak an unpleasant truth. And Guru Maharaj, because he's very candid and honest always about his position, he will say innocently, openly, that didn't sit well in my heart. I'm thinking, no, you should speak the truth and whatever the consequences are, even if it's unpleasant. But here, it's Veda, it's divine sound, Shabda Brahma, has come down and said, don't speak an unpalatable truth. Why? But he doesn't have an immediate answer. But because he's so devoted and dedicated to these things, he's also willing to wait. That we have to learn also. So another aphorism came to his aid, which is Avritir sarva shastranam bodhadapi gariyasi. We'll hear many things from the scriptures. It's, infinite revelation of the infinite. Amnaya prahatatvam harimiha paramam, etc. We can't expect to readily always fully understand that. But if we're faithful and dedicated, in time, according to the heart's inner necessity, according to our modest, natural growth and development, something may come to us, some understanding, an epiphany is also possible. So what did it say there? It is not as important understanding the meaning as to continually hear, continuous hearing. And again, Guru Maharaj noted for his use of example, he said, he compared it to ice, and ice melting. So ice being in this context, the rigid position. Right? But in time, it starts to melt and achieve a liquid form. So some of these concepts, they appear to be impenetrable or unapproachable at first, in the beginning. But in time, they soften. And we could say, just to continue the conceit, their liquid sweetness reveals itself in time, rasa. So when he heard that don't speak an unpalatable truth, then later his consideration became, like this show is titled Beauty Over Power. We have beauty over power, heart over intellect, mercy over justice, right? Substance over form. Mercy over justice. And this is where the Sundaram aspect comes in. The truth, and interestingly, we can connect this to the talk that Alexander Solzhenitsyn gave in his acceptance of the Nobel Prize for Literature, somewhere around 1976, 78, somewhere around there. And he says in his talk, which is a talk about art, literature, etc., what is the value of these things? Just as people say, what is the value of philosophy? It has no practical value. They will tell people in school, don't study philosophy, study technology so you can get a job, a high-paying job. The only job you can get if you study philosophy is teacher. Has no practical value. But Guru Maharaj will say, yes, philosophy shows its practical value when death approaches, or when we have to deal with death. So here, in his acceptance, Solzhenitsyn, he decided to talk about art. After all, it's the Nobel Prize for Literature. What is the value of art? What is the value of telling a story? Is there any value? Or it's just, it has some entertainment value, but anything substantial it deals with that's of lasting value? So he began his talk by saying that Dostoevsky once let drop the enigmatic phrase that beauty will save the world. Like Guru Maharaj hearing the Vedas, and he thought that was a peculiar statement. When Solzhenitsyn heard Dostoevsky say, beauty will save the world, he thought, really? Does he really mean that? Maybe he just was speaking informally and he said that, but it wasn't a seriously thought out proposition. But then he thought, but Dostoevsky is a master. He doesn't misspeak often. And if he said this, maybe there's something special there. He meant it to be understood in a very serious way. It wasn't just some charming repartee, but something valuable and substantial there. And then he thought, and in his own, perhaps his own example, said that truth and justice, they proceed more or less in linear fashion in our general conception of them. Right? He said, but beauty, and now I'm paraphrasing and embellishing, he acknowledged indirectly that beauty moves in an unpredictable way, not in a linear style. Just as when we talk of harmony in the conception of beauty, like the face, they will show very beautiful women or handsome men and take the face in half, and if you they don't look good when you put two identical halves together, but when a real face has there are a variety of elements that are unified in a beautiful present, and the ultimate presentation is beautiful. So it means harmonizing disparate what's the word? Various elements. So saying, but truth and justice, they're more linear in their approach. But beauty moved. Rupa Goswami says, Ahira kata prema swabhava kuti labhave, like the movements of a serpent. The serpent's movements overall are progressive, but they move in a zigzag way. But the overall effect is progressive. Saying the pastimes of Krishna are like that. The beauty of Krishna is like that. The form of Krishna is like that. The pastimes of Krishna are like that. So he said, since that which moves in a straight and linear line, it has a tendency to get chopped down. Right? But what moves in a zigzag, serpentine way can, in his words, he said, perhaps do the job of all three: truth, justice, beauty. Here we're saying truth, auspiciousness, and beauty. So the auspiciousness aspect, shivam, satyam, truth, truthfulness. But is the ultimate conception of truth realized in that, or comprehensively expressed as auspiciousness? It must be auspicious, good for everyone. Reality is for itself and by itself. But still something is lacking there, and what that is sundaram, beauty, charm, sweetness. So the ultimate conception of the ultimate truth, or the absolute truth, is beautiful. Reality, the beautiful absolute. When it comes to personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate beautiful personality of Godhead? The most beautiful expression of Godhead is realized in Krishna. Now we could say, or someone might say, well, you say that because you're devotees of Krishna. Ramachandra is so beautiful, we just heard about his beauty. Vishnu is so beautiful, Shiva is beautiful. There are so many beautiful gods and goddesses. Why you have to say Krishna is the most beautiful? Then we'll look for Shabda Praman, Shastra Praman, scriptural evidence to support this. Do the scriptures support this idea or not? So, two simple examples. One we told recently, Braja Gopis, when Krishna is playing a trick on them, he pushes two more arms out and becomes Vishnu form, looking like Vishnu, and their hearts are crushed. The sentiments in their hearts are crushed. Rago daya kunchati. They're constrained. What their heart wants to express itself toward is the beauty of Shama Sundar Krishna. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yang Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunas Rupam Govinda Mari Purusham Tamaham Bhajamin. And also, what does it say in that book? Ishvara Parama Krishna. Say, all right, Krishna is the Parameshwara, that's okay. Satchidananda Vigraha, all right. Anadir Adir what? Govinda. Govinda, that means Shama Sundar, Shama Gopa Roop Krishna. Krishna is the cowherd boy. Right? That's some other evidence. But when in the Krishna book, 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we're told that on the plea of returning the child of a Brahmin, Krishna and Arjuna, they go through the 8 layers of the universe and they go to Mahavishnu. And we find out Mahavishnu is kidnapping children. Why? Why is Mahavishnu doing that? It seems very highly inappropriate. Right? But what does Mahavishnu say? I just wanted to have a glimpse of your beauty, of your divine form. Right? And you know, you could make a case that, well, and that is Dwaraka Krishna. Let's say that that's Dwaraka Krishna. And then still prove it again. That Dwaraka Krishna, when he sees, we're told, a photograph of Vrindavan Krishna, he says, oh, I don't look as beautiful as I used to be. We have that experience in this world too. People, they look at in their younger days and they think, oh, so handsome or so beautiful at that time, not so much now. Even Krishna experiences that. Or we're told in other contexts, if he sees his own divine form, he's so enamored by the beauty, he's thinking, who is this person who is awakening the sentiments of Radhika within my heart? It's confusing. He's bewildered by his own beauty. Right? So, Ramachandra, right? We're told the other day, we said, Sarvadbhuta Chamatkaram, Lila Kalavaradi, Atulya Madhura Prema, what is that? Murali Kalakujita, Tri Jagan Manasa Karshi, Murali Kalakujita, etc. The 4 qualities that distinguish Krishna. And here we see, if we take Lila to mean Rasa Lila, the Madhura Rasa, Svakya Madhura Rasa is introduced in Ram Lila, but exclusive to Sita. Right there, you have some constraint. So then we'll say, oh, but in Dwaraka, that seva, that Madhura, sweetness seva, is extended to 16,108 queens. So then we can understand here, oh, then that is a superior conception. But it is still within the Svakya, wedded, married life. Whereas we must go to Mathura, Vrindavan, etc. for Parakya Rasa to be exhibited in its full expression. Gurudev said it very simply once, on the basis of Brahma Samhita. Vaikuntha, although there are unlimited Vishnus in Vaikuntha, one Lakshmi, one Narayan. What does Brahma Samhita say? Lakshmi Sahasrasatasam Brahma Sevyamanam. Hundreds and thousands and millions of gopis for one Krishna. So that means, by analysis, the extension and expansion of sweetness. So the Guru Maharaj also equates Sundaram, beauty, with love, charm, sweetness, anandam. And he says reality, the beautiful, it also, like Sat Chit Anandam, Satyam Sivam Sundaram. So Sundaram and Ananda, Sundarananda, means also Krishna. The highest expression of pleasure, the highest expression of beauty, the highest expression of love, affection, etc. So the ultimate reality must be the ultimate beauty. But herein would come a fine question. If Krishna is reality the beautiful, and he is it possible to improve upon the beauty of Krishna? Could anyone be any more beautiful than Krishna? And we hear, he is Madan Mohan, Kandar Pakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham. So, what sort of beauty and attraction? The magnitude of 10 million cupids personified as one. But that Madan Mohan is bewildered by the beauty of Srimati Radharani, Madan Mohan Mohini. But just for the sake of argument or analysis, if they are to combine 64 qualities Krishna, 25 qualities Radharani, then we have Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And Guru Maharaj is expressing, Koti Kami Murchi Tangri Rupa Rasa Rangarang. That 10 million cupids will faint to see the beauty of Mahaprabhu. So, the devotees of Mahaprabhu are really the exclusive, fanatical followers of Srimati Radharani. The highest devotees of Mahaprabhu are her associates, most intimate associates. And they like to see Krishna under the influence of the heart and halo of Srimati Radharani. That gives great joy to their hearts, and they can never forget that beauty. So I recall visiting with Srila Guru Maharaj in the afternoon one day, and he's sitting in his chair like that, as he would do sometimes. He'd go like this when he's very happy. Tap is on the part, and he said, I gave my Dandavats and Sadhana, and he said, I say, the ultimate reality must be dancing. What do you say? Like that. The ultimate reality must be dancing. What do I say? Should I say the ultimate reality must be dancing? What do you say? Of course, it was a rhetorical question, and Guru Maharaj is explaining, and it's actually on the basis of Prema Dhamma Deva Stotram, but it shows us a few things. That one is, Guru Maharaj, till the end of his life, was generating fresh Krishna conscious substance. He wasn't merely repeating what he had realized in 1941 or 1950. The time is irrelevant. He's in a dynamic process and an inner dialogue that was constantly revealing new substance, even interpreting his own compositions. So when he said that the ultimate reality must be dancing, he said it on the basis of the Premadhamma Stotra. Atma, Savalila, Purnasokya Lakshanam. Purnasokya Lakshanam. The fullest expression, what's the symptom of fullest expression of happiness? And he expressed it in this way. And see, again, remember, all of these things are connected thematically. We shouldn't think, oh, the Upanishads, they say one thing, and then there's Puranas, they say another, and then there's another one that says this, and there's another book that says that. If you think like that, it means you don't understand the unified field theory of Krishna conception and Gaudiya Darshan and Mahaprabhu and Guru Maharaj. It's all connected. Right? So when he's saying this, he can factor in Om Purnam Adak Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachate. So someone might say, oh, that's the sloka from the Isha Upanishad where it says the Absolute is perfect and complete, right? Yes. And Guru Maharaj has many explanations of this. The famous 0 times 0 equals 0, 0 divided by 0 equals 0, 0 plus 0 equals 0, 0 minus 0 equals 0, a billion zeros equals 0, 10 zeros equals 0. Understand the Absolute in this way. Well, that's a footnote, sidebar. But here, Purnam, what are the different meanings of complete? Well, one meaning is fulfilled. So he's saying, this is how Guru Maharaj's meditation for 50, 70, 80, 90 years keeps yielding nectarine substance. So now, Purnam means fulfilled. Well, as he would express, when someone is really feeling satisfied or fulfilled to the nth degree, here the Greek comes to our aid. Ecstasis, ecstasy, means actually outside of yourself. You're so happy, you've become ecstatic. You're outside of yourself. And what Guru Maharaj is saying here, when you're satisfied to the nth degree, and the joy cannot be contained within yourself, it expresses itself outward as ecstatic dance. So, on the basis of this, you think the ultimate reality must be dancing. Right? Reality must be dancing, but not in some monotonal scientific, and all the atoms and parts, they're all, it's like a dance. They're just talking about movement. But now we're back to the original point. Guru Maharaj will say, movement enhanced with beauty is dance. Just movement is not dance per se. But when it's enhanced with beauty, it's dance. Speech, when the element of beauty is added to speech, it becomes song. So the better writers, even the better prose writers, people, literary critics and observers, they will say, oh, at this point in his writing, it approaches poetry. They mean it has a musical element to it. It's even though it's prose, it's so perfectly written, it's now as if it's being sung. What is the world? In that perfect world, what are we told? Katha ganam natyam gamanam. Where what they speak is like song. That's what it means. Not that they just saying everything they say. What is being said, because it's saturated with reality the beautiful, it's song. Right? And movement is dance. Why? Because they're under the influence of the ultimate beauty, who's also dancing. His ecstasy is not something that he strives to achieve, like to move from the unhappy position to a happy position. That's not Krishna. He's ecstasy personified. He is already Atmaram. So then the question comes up, Vishwanath and others deal with it, saying, then why does he seem to enjoy his pastimes with the Braja Gopis? What is he approaching them for? He's already ecstasy personified. He's Atmaram. Various descriptions are given there, like a child playing with its reflection, one point is told, but also that his movement, being ecstasy personified, his movements are ecstatic. He doesn't move to achieve ecstasy. He's already in an ecstatic condition. But he's extending or expanding that to others, particularly in Gaur Lila, Nam Sankirtan, and many other things. All of it is divine movement. Once, you know, Guru Maharaj so much liked Hegel, and he's given Hegel a lot of Sukriti. Reality is for itself and by itself, determination, self-determination, die to live, so many things. But he once wrote me in a letter, he said, but what Hegel cannot accommodate is Lila. He thinks everything, it needs a cause to advance it to the next position, to the next. So, but he can't understand the concept of Lila and pastimes. It may be in the love affairs of Radha and Krishna, what is called man, loving anger, for no reason. Even in this world, the lovers, particularly we talk like the Romeo Juliet, the really pristine, pure love. There are fighting and argument or insult, whatever it is, there's no cause other than its necessity, its own necessity to express certain emotions. That's the beauty of Krishna Lila and the higher pastimes, that there is no cause in that sense. Or Guru Maharaj told about Mahaprabhu and his Nam Sankirtan, and Siddhanti Maharaj liked this very much. So he said, the cause is the effect and the effect is the cause. He's chanting his own name, tasting that sweetness, and what's it doing? It's making him dance madly and chant his own name as an outcome. The cause is the effect and the effect is the cause. So, I find it very, how do you say, the right word is encouraging. That's not the word I was looking for, but that the ultimate reality is beautiful, is reassuring, encouraging, exciting. I can't think of the actual word that I'm looking for, but because we are accustomed to hear of reality and the ultimate reality and things like that, and the scientists have tried to make that everyone else is dealing in interpretation, and they're dealing in hard facts about things. And that the ultimate reality is beautiful. They could say, yes, in its expression, or what we observe of it, what do they call it? The elegant universe, those kind of things. But that's the least aspect of its beauty. That it can be beautiful the way a person can be beautiful, that the brains cannot accommodate or digest. The beauty of a look, the beauty of emotional expression, right? Those things cannot be denied. Right? To the simple things that we can do in this world, to deny that the supreme reality, the supreme absolute truth can express such things is sad and pathetic. So when I was on my flight from Beijing to New York, and sitting next to me is a computer scientist, teaches, post-doctoral computer science to very advanced people. And I thought, oh, this is an opportunity to ask a series of questions, but I only needed to ask one question, which was, and he agreed, like, yes, ask me any question you like. So I said, as a hardcore computer scientist, the way you've been trained and the way you teach, I said, can you say with absolute certainty that the original source of all aroma or fragrance has no olfactory capacity? In other words, cannot smell. And he said, as you have worded this, no, I cannot say that with absolute certainty. I cannot deny that prospect or possibility. I said, that's all I need to know, because now you've opened the door for the possibility of theistic culture and the concept of the personality of Godhead, because we can make a similar case for each sense. Can you say with absolute certainty that the original source of all things to be seen has no seeing capacity? Seeing, smelling, hearing, tasting, touch, etc. So, I've mentioned before that Wittgenstein is arguably the greatest linguistic philosopher of the 20th century. Bastard disciple of Bertrand Russell, who drove Russell crazy because Russell could not defeat him. But that Wittgenstein, he lived above a petrol station in Vienna while he's writing his books, and every day the aroma of coffee comes wafting upstairs, and he's like, he's smelling that coffee. Maybe I'll go downstairs and have a cup. But then one day he had an epiphany, and he thought, with all of my linguistic power and skill, I cannot in words convey the aroma of coffee to another person. I could write a book about it, but you won't know what it smells like. You won't get that experience. So then people, you could say, then how dare we say anything about God? Yes, that's true. If it's your own speculative conjecture. Can God, who may have olfactory capacity, may have the ability to see, hear, taste, touch, smell, feel, can he express anything about himself or not? That's Guru Maharaj's point. Can the infinite make himself known to the finite? Yeah, we'll concede, yes, good point. Finite cannot know the infinite by finite means. Atak Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavyed Graham Indriya. Yes, Rupa Goswami agrees with you. But that's not the end of the story. Can the infinite make itself known to the finite through infinite means? Even the most rational person has to admit that is possible. That's why Christopher Hitchens, the great atheist and writer, his friend, the name something Amos. There's Martin Amos? Yeah. He, as much as Hitchens was an atheist, his friend, who's almost as much an atheist as him, said to him, Chris, you've got to admit, if from a purely rational point of view, there's some possibility. You shouldn't eliminate that. And he said, no, I say there's no, Even his best friend said, this I'll never agree with you on. As much as I agree with you, I have to say that in the infinite range of infinite possibility, it has to be there. So that's Guru Maharaj's point. Can the infinite make itself known to the finite? Then how does he do that? Amnaya, revealed truth. It won't be acquired truth based upon pratyaksha or paroksha, individual experience, collective experience. Right? It'll be revealed truth. He'll make himself known. How? Who? Sadhu, Shastra, Guru, Vaishnav, agents. As Guru says, the rishis, interesting that that word is used. The Sanskrit, it means like drishi, drishtva, to see, observe. So they're observers of reality, right? Seers in that sense. Darshan means to see. It also means it's synonymous with philosophy and viewpoint, perspective. The Sanskrit word for to create is sarshti or shrishti, right? They're not creating anything, the rishis. And even, just as a side point, great literary analysts will actually point out all writers in varying degrees are under the influence of other writers. No one's writing anything, quote unquote, original. So someone even wrote a book called The Anatomy of Influence. How you can find someone is influenced by another thinker, another thinker, another thing. It's like a guru parampara, right? You can make an original expression, but to say that you're just totally creating something without any influence from anyone is a dishonest position. So the rishis, Jnaninas Tattvadarshina, what they've observed, what's been revealed to them, they're expressing. They're giving vent to that. Right? So the Veda Stuti chapter, 87th chapter of the Srimad 10th Canto, it's the longest chapter in the whole work. Prabhupada called Prayers of the Personified Vedas. And this question arises there, that if we concede that with mundane instruments you can only express what is mundane, then how can you vibrate the holy name, have a spiritual discussion, express anything accurately about the supreme reality, or read a spiritual book, or any of these things, right? If you're limited by your seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, feeling, by mundane senses, and the mind, which is also mundane. Bhumirapo analo vayu kamanu bhutirevacha. Mind is also mundane. Intelligence is mundane. So how can you express the spiritual with the mundane? Actually, this is one of the flaws of Prakriti Sahajaism. That's what they're trying to do. By reconditioning mind and intellect to express what is divine, by simulating spiritual substance. Right? Simulating. It's like neurolinguistic programming. I'll look at the picture of Krishna. I'll incessantly hear the sound of the name of Krishna. And in this way, I'll recondition my mind, my senses, mind, and intelligence to be saturated with Krishna consciousness. Guru Maharaj uses this slok from the Bhagavad Gita to prove that that's a fallacy. Because he's saying, Bhumirapo analo vayu kam mano buddhir evacha. Mind and buddhi are prakriti. They're mundane elements. And who is jiva? Apareyam itastvanyam prakritim vidime param. A superior prakriti to that is jiva shakti. So the long and short of it, again, I said it's the longest chapter in the 10th in the entire Bhagavatam, is that, and perhaps Vishwanath and others will point out, this is why you have senses. It's for spiritual expression. I've tried to connect this to the expression of Rukmini, Shrutva gunan bhuvana sundara srinvatam te nirvishakarna vivarai haratongatapam rupam disham dishimatam akhilartalabam tvayat chuta bishati patram apatra chitram apatra pamme. He's saying, now that I've, heard you're Bhuvan Sundar, through hearing I could understand you're the most beautiful thing in the world. Now I understand. That's why we have hearing, is to do that. It's not just one of the things you can do with hearing is hear about Krishna. That's not the actual point. That's what hearing is meant for. Seeing is meant to see the divine form of Krishna. So the reason you have senses, even mundane senses, is to allow for this possibility. So it's true. Going from down to up, you can't reconfigure matter to express spirit. No amount of finite will be equal to the infinite, but the infinite can make himself known to the finite. Spirit can manipulate matter. So the heart, the heart, which means the deep heart's core, consciousness, our innermost consciousness, under the influence of Krishna conception, can express itself outward through the mind and senses, and the tongue can vibrate Krishna Nam. That's Bhaktivinoda Thakur Sharanagati. Not that it's a common misconception amongst the devotees. I think they'll go like, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. They'll vibrate this sound. Listen to that sound, it will purify their hearts. What's wrong with this picture? So you're going to vibrate a sound that's going to purify you. There's some canceling there. Rather, the heart under the influence of Guru, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vaishnav, can express outward the holy name, or a spiritual concept, or the infinite making itself known to the finite. Vaikuntha Nama Grahanam, Guru Maharaj extracted from the Ajamil chapter. What is all critical is the Nam, the sound. Vaikuntha does it have spiritual quality and characteristic to it? Right? We know the recording. There was one company, Gurudev remembered them too, called His Master's Voice. Right? And they made, I forget, Victrolas or phonograph, whatever they were called. But their logo was, a dog. Who is the dog? Fido. What is fidelity, faithful, hi-fi, high fidelity. So the dog, they're saying, our reproduction of the sound is so excellent, the dog thinks it's his master's voice. So they show the dog listening like, and he's hearing his master's voice. So that was the name of their company. So, but still, that's a simulation, right? A parrot. What is, in English, the word parrot is also a verb. You can parrot what you've heard from others. Means mindless, unconscious reproduction. So the mindless, unconscious reproduction of sound will not generate spiritual substance. So what someone needs to tell Wittgenstein is that, yes, you are correct. The Tak Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavye Grayam Indye. What to speak of the aroma of coffee, the name of Krishna, the form of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna are beyond the grasp of the mind and intellect. But it doesn't mean that Krishna cannot reveal the name, form, qualities, and pastimes to the mind and intellect. Spiritual mind, spiritual intellect. And when Guru Maharaj told about the ultimate reality must be dancing, and I thought at the time, a little while later thinking about it, I heard that Nietzsche once said, facetiously, said, if I were to believe in God, he would have to be a good dancer. So I thought, as Guru Maharaj giving so much Sukriti to Hegel. I thought, if Nietzsche met Guru Maharaj could give him a concept of God that he could believe in. That the ultimate reality must be dancing. Ecstatic dance.